You're listening to the BCB Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Lunn, and welcome to today's episode. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Coming up, we'll be talking about the incoming heatwave, diving into our favourite milkshakes, and later on, we'll hear from Evan Witten.
Hello.
Eric Hewwood.
Hello.
And Abby Johnson.
Hi.
Now, something you've probably noticed, it's been hot. Bradford has been more like Barcelona, with warm weather expected to continue, with temperatures hitting highs of up to 22 degrees. And with the sun out, we spoke to local Bradfordians about how they're making the most of the weather.
So we are enjoying the sun today because we are off today from the job or from duty.
I will be working in my garden, and then I also volunteer garden at the Industrial Museum, so I'll be going there on Wednesday.
It's really, pleasant to see such kind of weather, and finally I see people around here. So I'm very happy to see you.
Yes, when it's sunny day, so we sell more ice creams and we make more money. It is very important for us to have good weather. The machines are just on all the days, so it's very hot inside. Yeah. Especially this slush machine.
So guys, how are you all enjoying the weather?
Good. I mean, it's always nice to go out, get a tan, have a drink, sit in a nice beer garden. It's always great when it's sunny.
Yeah, I wish I could tan. I just can't tan, but I'm certainly up for sitting in a beer garden. No, that sounds pretty
Just
good to
not
me.
being in the sun enough, Evan. That's clearly what it is.
I think that's the problem.
What about you, Abby?
I'm enjoying the nice summer walks I can do with my dog. Finally, I can get on the routes that we haven't been on in years.
Yeah, I feel like it's always nice to go to a beach or go on a nice long walk when it's sunny, or go somewhere quite scenic.
Yeah, I think as well, because it's quite early in the year now, it's April. I think there's a lot of, obviously, from our perspective, it's just nice to enjoy it. But from a financial perspective, there's going to be a lot more money going into them beaches and independent businesses in locations like that.
Yeah,
So,
because especially in seaside towns, it is a lot of independent businesses.
Yeah, like Brighton thrives off good weather, and places like that, it's all going to be. But I mean, even for Bradford, the sunnier it is, the more people are going to get out. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
As long as it doesn't turn into a heat wave, then we should be all right.
Yeah, like a proper one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always nice to see. Obviously, 22 degrees today and could get even warmer. Now, something that often people enjoy in hot weather, we'll move on to some of the nation's favourite confectionery. However, the news isn't quite as sweet, with the price of milkshakes set to rise across the region. The government are consulting on sugar tax to dairy-based products, as well as fizzy drinks. Non-dairy substitutes like oat milk would be included. The Treasury has confirmed plans to press on with the changes.
People should be left to make their own choices as long as things are labelled really well and people know what they're putting in the system. Particularly for adults, they make their own lifestyle choices, and as a parent I'll make them decisions for my children, because once they start doing this, then they can bring in other types of taxes for other things that we enjoy.
I think it's probably a necessity almost. I think, yes, it is a lifestyle choice. Yes, people can choose if they want to have sugars in their products or not. And yes, I do believe it's a means almost to get money basically out of the everyday people. But I do also think it's kind of gone too far now and people's healths are at risk. And if this is a means of making people healthier, making people think about how much sugar intake is in the diet, then I'm all for it.
I think they're just interfering with our lives too much. They should allow us to decide how much sugar we have. Yeah, not them.
That's the thoughts of some local Bradfordians, but what do you all think?
I think it's really important. At the end of the day, if the ends justify the means and it's getting people healthier, I'm all down to pay a bit more for something that contains sugar.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard things from people about people who run dessert shops being like, oh, this will make things difficult for those kinds of businesses where they would be taxed more for things like milkshakes and stuff. But yeah, like Eric said, I don't drink them often. I mean, I do like them, but yeah, I think people who would be buying them anyway would still be willing to pay a bit more. I don't think it'll be twice the price or anything, but as much as a tax would bring in, I think most people at least would be willing to pay a bit more, because I know I certainly would.
Yeah, especially for younger children, I think it's really good, especially with them taking all ads to do with anything sugary off TV, and it's just a gradual progression of trying to get young people healthier, I think.
Yeah, absolutely as well. And I think there's the whole idea that a milkshake and desserts is sort of a luxury. It's not something that people are having every day, or shouldn't be, and I guess that's another reason why we do things like this.
Yeah.
But if it is a luxury and people are still going to have those luxuries, the price has gone up maybe, but I don't think it's going to take away anyone's enjoyment of a one-off dessert or a milkshake or something like that.
No, yeah, I shouldn't think so. Anyway, no. What about you, Abby? What do you?
I'm sort of on the fence about it, if I'm honest. Like, I can sort of see the appeal. Like, sure, reduce like the amount of people being diagnosed with diabetes and stuff like that. I get that, but also at the same time, it's like people actively make their own choices, and if they want to indulge, they can indulge. I don't see why that's an issue.
Do you think perhaps it's maybe not so much an issue, but from a government standpoint, it's about making people aware of these issues? Because if you're a child from a young age and you're seeing things like milkshakes for quite reasonable prices and chocolate on the TV, do you think it's maybe more making people aware?
Yeah, I think it's more about awareness, because with, the amount of fast food and, healthy eating generally going down, I think more obesity in like younger people and less kind of food health awareness. I think it's just trying to make people more conscious of what they're putting into their bodies. And I think that's a really good thing.
I do agree with that, but I do think, again, it just comes down to personal choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that's probably the main thing. But it's definitely something that it's looking like the government will be bringing in shortly across the region. Moving on, today's World Autism Acceptance Day. The University of Bradford is hosting a series of activities and talks aimed at raising awareness, understanding, and acceptance of autism within our academic and local community. The event brings together students, staff, advocates, and specialists to celebrate neurodiversity and promote inclusive practice in education and beyond. We spoke to a number of people from different organisations about the importance of days like today and the work they do in the community.
A lot of the parents come to us, they have no idea what to do post-diagnosis or even pre-diagnosis, and I think we give them that understanding that we get it, we understand what's going on for those families and we can really help them. We've had some amazing positive outcomes for young people. So yeah, that's what we do at Great Minds Together.
We come along to this event every year. It's always really busy. It helps to get awareness of the service out there, and our goal is to make people aware of kind of their rights in relation to SEND, and what options are available to them, what next steps they might be able to take. So we are a really busy service anyway, to be fair, but it's nice to come to something like this and be able to speak to a lot of people in one go.
Social media now, TikTok and things like that, it's making people more aware of SEN and additional needs. However, there's still quite a lot of misunderstanding and misconceptions around it, and we're not that inclusive as a society. And I think the main sort of motivation behind Gateways is the fact that the education system at the moment in this country is flawed, because even if a child's got an EHCP, the budgets are that sort of sparse now. There's just not the staff or the funding to meet everybody's needs. Everybody has got the right to learn, basically. We should be more inclusive. Education needs to be more inclusive. There needs to be more sort of alternative provisions like us that students can access in the short and long term.
I think it's important that other children and young people who are not neurodiverse have awareness on that and are accepting of their peers. So today we're doing a workshop to basically ask parents and other children with autism how they would want us to share their message to other children and young people. So how would they want their peers to be more accepting, their peers to be more inclusive, and to just understand their needs better, to make school a better place and the community a better place for them to live.
So yeah, this is a really good opportunity to sort of network with other teams, see what resources are out there so we can better offer signposting to the families we support, and that families can come and see what we do and what they're entitled to, and what support services we can offer. Yeah, get the best really for our families and our kids. I hope that the families that access our service and rely on our service would feel that we're a help.
Why do you think it's important that we have those sorts of days?
Just to raise awareness for those that might be going through struggles with autism. So for example, like if they're not getting the support that they need from schools or transport or even like from the council, then we're here to just like raise awareness for them. So I feel like World Autism Acceptance and Awareness Days, they're important just to like raise awareness for them. I think definitely in schools, they definitely need support in schools. If they're not supported there, then I don't think they would be able to do the best that they can. So having the teachers be made aware of like, you know, their needs and stuff, I feel like that will be really beneficial for them.
How important is it then for you guys that there is days like this and people are made aware of them?
Well, I think in terms of, I mean, this is, to put it out there, this is my opinion. It's not the opinion of a professional at all. But I think that it's absolutely right that people with autism should have support in place in places like schools, especially, to make sure that, like one of the interviewees said there, that they have the best chance to do the best they can. But I think it's good that there are kind of things in place, and I think the key is like how to go about that, like what actually are they doing, because obviously not everyone can be an expert in this, right? And so I think it's important that teachers get training in that in a certain sense, but also kind of are aware that, like, above all, the kids with autism are still kids, and so they shouldn't be kind of put into boxes, which you do kind of see sometimes where, like, you know, there's rooms in schools where people with special needs can go, which is great because that's like a place for them, but it can sometimes kind of lean a bit too far into, like, you know, that's their box. So I feel like it's kind of finding that balance of giving them all the stuff that they need, but kind of also helping them to integrate into, like, you know, wider society and just getting the best out of them.
Yeah, I think it's really important to, you know, educate, because it's a large spectrum, and obviously it's always up to the individual, and their needs might be vastly different from another autistic person's needs. So I think that's why it's good to, you know, as I talk about the additional training and the need in schools for teachers to be, you know, more educated and more aware of these things, just so everyone can be happy within their own version of autism, as to speak.
Yeah, I think it's all about making it as easy for people that do have autism and other types of neurodiversity. It's about making it as easy for them as possible. And I do think there is at times a bit of inclusivity issues when it comes to situations like this, particularly in schools, as was said. What are your thoughts on this, Abby?
I have personally 2 people in my family who are autistic. One's my nephew and one's my cousin. And I certainly believe that these sorts of days and charities are very important, because I didn't even know my cousin had autism until I was in year 9. And it's subtle behaviorisms that they have that you don't necessarily pick up on until it's pointed out to you, that, you know, not necessarily to be aware of, but it's understanding the other person. I think that's what it comes down to, really, and what they need in terms of, like, support and stuff like that. I think it all just boils down to that, really.
That's interesting, because obviously from your perspective of having experiences with people that do have autism and other types of neurodiversity, have you noticed the sort of issues with inclusivity towards them?
My cousin, when he was in high school, was very bullied, just for the fact that he had what was then called Asperger's, is now just called general autism. He suffered quite a bit just because both how he looks physically and just how his brain works, because he's a very intelligent young man, and I think people overlook that because of his autism. People think that he's a weirdo, he's a freak. I mean, his relationships as well, they've always been, like, jaded with judgment, really. And it's so sad, because they are just human beings like you or I. They just think slightly different to us.
Yeah, and I think that's how events like this can really help, because, you know, it's about giving them a safe space without being too stigmatizing and putting them into, you know, a box, as you said, Evan, and letting them integrate if they want to, and if they need more help, give them more help.
Yeah, exactly.
It's these sort of days where it's really important to shine a light, and especially, we haven't really touched on it in this podcast, but all the people that we heard there that have been helping to make their experiences easy and make them have a better and more equal shot in life. Moving on then, this morning the results of a Canadian election have been announced, and Prime Minister Mark Carney has led the Liberal Party of Canada to an extraordinary victory over Pierre Poilievre Canadian Conservative Party. The Liberal Party started the race significantly behind him in polls, but threats from the US President Donald Trump about turning Canada into the 51st state, as well as US tariffs, changed their electoral fortune.
President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never, ever happen.
Carney managed to win 168 seats, falling short of a majority, but maintaining his party status as the largest in the Canadian Parliament, while the Conservative Party won 124 MPs, with Poilievre losing his own seat. To sport now, and Bradford City have announced a sellout crowd for their crunch clash with Fleetwood Town on Saturday. The Bantams will hope for a positive result in a game that will see them gain automatic promotion if they avoid defeat. It will also be a special game for other reasons too, with plenty of events to mark the 40th anniversary of the Valley Parade fire taking place. One supporters group have already made their mark on the memorial. Shipley Bantams have donated £2,000 to the Plastic Surgery and Burns Research Unit at the University of Bradford. The latest donation comes in the run-up to the Valley Parade fire anniversary, with Steve Gorringe and Christine Tarrant handing over the cheque. Gorringe said the supporters group have a significantly high proportion of fans in the age group who remember the tragic events, so they felt it appropriate to donate yet again. More events are set to take place over the next few weeks. Again, then, I think this is another time where awareness is really key, that we don't make sort of the same mistakes that were made 40 years ago with the fire.
Yeah.
So how important is it, do you think, that donations like these just sort of bring things to light surrounding things that have happened in the past? For example, obviously that donation went straight to the Burns unit. I think most people just look at the event and how probably sad it was that something like that can happen, but specifically focusing on the research to make sure if something did happen again like this, that it wouldn't be to the same extremes.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very, very good thing, because I was talking to someone earlier this week or last week who was saying that, you know, it's not going to be ages and ages away before, you know, the people who are at the fire won't be around anymore, God forbid, you know. So I think it's important to keep events like that in the public consciousness so that people know what mistakes were made and what, you know, how to avoid those in the future. And also, I think, to give the spotlight to the people that lost their lives, but also to the people who thankfully survived, but obviously have very traumatic memories of it. And I know that the Bradford Burns unit, from everything I've heard, do really fantastic, really pioneering work. And so I'm all for it. Personally.
Yeah, I think it's really important just to keep the ball rolling with these kinds of things, because, you know, if you stop giving it a lot of attention, they'll receive less funding, obviously, from, you know, charity events and so on and so forth. So just to hammer in the importance of it and make sure it's all running properly and everything's running well, and just to more exaggerate it and make sure that everyone knows the cause and knows the events, and then they can get more attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a case of history not repeating itself and trying as hard as possible to make people aware. Obviously, as well, this is all happening at quite an interesting time for Bradford City, with them being able to gain automatic promotion to League One this weekend. Do you guys think that they're capable of doing it?
I hope so. I hope so, because, you know, they're my local team technically, so I'd hope so. Yeah,
I think it'll be very good for the city if they go up, and, you know, once you go up leagues, it's, you know, an increase in funding, increase in money, more media attention.
Yeah, especially with the City of Culture as well on top of that.
Yeah, so I think it could really shine a good light on Bradford.
It's all really coming together at quite a positive time for them. And obviously, you said about the more funding. We've sold 19,000 season tickets in League Two, which is just a bit of a ridiculous figure. Really.
Extra ticket allocation alone, it's surely going to increase, you know, the club's budget.
Yeah. And it was that extra ticket allocation that allowed for a sellout crowd today and a record-breaking crowd for the club. So that'll be a good one. And finally, before we end, to Formula One, as former Haas team boss Gunter Steiner will be in Bradford tonight. The captivating figure will host a Q&A at St. George's Hall as part of his Unfiltered Live tour. That is today's BCB podcast. We'll be back again tomorrow at about 2:00. Thank you for watching.